So Wednesday, 6:10, I wake up. Normally it's 6:45, but it's basically a repeat of the day before, just trying to front load the calories instead. So I have my brekkie and I'll just do some investment stuff, checking the video channel. Also, good date timestamp for how this channel is doing at this point in time. So yeah, at the time of taking this screenshot, I've got I'll enlarge in this image, 419 subscribers. Pretty good. Thanks heaps, guys. Appreciate you all. But who knows what that'll be in this time in a year. Maybe I'll look back and like, oh damn, I had that many subs back then. So that's what I mean by the timestamp thing. But yeah, nothing too different from the morning. Like, it's the same sort of stuff as yesterday. The eggs, spinach, and the cereal, just minus the wheat germ oil, and listening to investment stuff while I was eating breakfast. So 7:25 to 8:30 drive to work. So yeah, left a little bit later than 7:20 again today because got sidetracked with the pictures. But as you can see, there's not as many pictures as before. As Tuesday. So yeah, I didn't leave as late. Listening to investing stuff, some music too. So yeah, on this day in particular, there wasn't a whole lot of investment stuff that I found was worth my time that came out, so I just listened to some music on the drive to work. Normally, I'd listen to a lecture for my study stuff instead, but because it wasn't too close to the exam date, I didn't do that. Now, the reason I don't just always listen to like lectures and stuff at the start of the trimester is you get burnt out if you do too much study. Now, the problem, like, I've found that I don't really burn out with investment like learning, but if I do, well, like, who cares? Like, I've got a fair bit of money in the markets, but for the most part, you can just buy and hold decent stocks and you'll be fine. Like, if you don't keep up to date for a week, it's not really going to like destroy everything, you know what I mean? So the point of that is I can afford to take a break with my investment learning. I can't really do that come exam time. Now, if I go too hard with study too soon, I get really like burnt out and I crash. Like, I've got a pretty high tolerance of being able to grind, but I'm sure you guys have this feeling too. After an exam is done, you just want nothing to do with that subject. It's the same thing for me. And usually I time it pretty well, whereas right after the exam, I'm done with the subject, but I can study pretty hard leading up to it. But if I start studying too hard too soon and I burn out like the 2 weeks before the exam, that's just really bad timing. So I don't know if I've worded that right. I hope you know what I mean. But basically, if I start studying too early, then I burn out before the exam when it really matters. So here on this day, 8:30 to 10:30 morning routine. No tills because we've got a part-time sort of finance worker and she will do that on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday instead of me, and I'll just be doing other stuff. And then yeah, there was a fair bit of emails on this day in particular. So from 10 o'clock to 10:15, just break, more tuna and Gains food. And 10:15 to 12 o'clock, just some random tasks until lunch. I'm not boring you with the details. Look, I was just doing my job, just doing stuff. At 11:47 pick, that's just some dockets and a bit of paper and some computer accounting software program I had open. Just doing my job. 12 to 12:30, more lunch, my little red meat, sweet potato, kiwi, and dark chocolate as per usual, along with some vitamin D again. Had a pretty good run of good sunny days, so that's always nice. And then 12:30 to 4:30 is just doing other work, pretty much. So this image, as you can see, 322, I was in another office, so this wasn't taken in my office. I had to figure something out with someone else from another office, so that's why I was there. And I took this pic again, beach weather or gym weather. So why I keep bringing up beach is, well, a lot of people I know will just find any excuse to always go to the beach, but the problem is if I do that, I lose out on gym sessions or I lose out on study sessions, and I don't really have the room in my schedule for that at the moment, especially with where I want to go with gym and obviously my exam coming up soon. If I didn't have an exam, I might consider something like going to the beach, but I'd probably go to the beach if it fell on like a Thursday or a Monday, which are days that I don't gym anyway. Like, I try not to get my gym routine thrown off because that's how it starts to spiral out of control, so I keep it in check. So from 4:30 to 5:30, drive to work on this day. So traffic was a bit lighter, so I got to gym a bit earlier, which simply means I just start gym a bit earlier. So you can see that image. I've got all my stuff there, my powerlift shoes, my foam roller, my gym bag, and then I've got a mat that's not in the pic as well, although the mat's from the gym, so I didn't bring it, but just got all my stuff ready for leg day. So this is my lower one session. So I've got 2 leg days in particular. One of them I'll have more of my deadlift stuff, and the other one I'll have more of my squat stuff, just because I don't like squatting and deadlifting in the same workout. I used to be able to do that back in the uni days when I actually had the energy for this sort of stuff, but these days, as you can imagine, I don't have all the energy I used to, so I prefer to just keep them split. And also, it's a pain in the ass to set up and warm up for deadlifts and then set up and warm up for squats. Every single workout, I like to just set up and warm up for one of those movements at a time, so that's why I do that. You know, everyone's got their own way of training, so, you know. Now, I'll start off with foam rolling. As you can see here, I'm just like playing on my phone, just getting some music sorted. And then I'm foam rolling the side of my glutes here. It's a nice little glute shot, no homo. But I start off with 60 kilos on the bar for sumo deadlifts, and then I'll move up to 100, and then I'll go to 120. And then depending on how I feel, I might warm up to 130 or 140, and then I'll get into like my working set. So I'll do 2 sets of them. You're seeing some of the warm-ups now. And this one, I believe, is the actual work. Yeah, this is the actual working set. So yeah, I've got 140 on the bar, I think, on this day in particular. So as you can see, hips sink back. Yeah, so I don't really know what to say, to be honest, here. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. I'm doing deadlifts, like, form pretty decent. My hips aren't just shooting up. So a common error you see with deadlifts is people's hips will shoot up a lot earlier than like the rest of their body. Like, you can see like my back and my legs and my lower back and everything sort of moving in a fluid sort of motion, as opposed to the lower back just shooting up all at once. Now, if your hips shoot up too early, you'll really like pull from your lower back, and that's a problem. So this isn't going to be like a how to deadlift video, because as you can imagine, this video is going to be long enough as it is, but just know that what you saw is pretty decent form. There's probably stuff you could work on, but yeah, as you can see, my hips weren't really shooting up super quick. I think on the last rep of my top set of deadlifts, my hips did shoot up a bit quick, but you know, that's the last rep of your top set. Obviously, the form's never going to be perfect, so as long as I'm not doing that all the time, I should stay pretty injury free. So next up, I do stiff-legged deadlifts. So I really drop the weight on this one, and the idea is just to really feel it in your hamstrings. So what you do is you lower it to a point where you feel like your hips have sunk back as far as they can without your lower back starting to like round. Like, your lower back will obviously shift back, but it's not really rounding. So that's the general idea. It's just to really get a stretch on your hamstrings and your glutes. Like, it's hard to explain, especially because I'm freestyling this thing. Like, I know what it's meant to feel like, but I haven't actually trained anyone since like late 2019, early 2020 as a personal trainer. So just fun fact, I used to be a personal trainer. So I used to be in the gym teaching this stuff to people. So I've lost all my little cues and stuff, but that's basically the gist of it. There's your regular cues for your deadlift and all that, but for a stiff-legged one in particular, the idea is to sink your hips back as far as you feel like your hamstrings are being stretched, because once your hamstrings are fully stretched, going any lower just starts to like round your lower back, which is why I don't go all the way down. But again, the form will just depend on you. That's just what I do. Again, I guess do your own research. There's plenty of other tutorials on how to do stiff-legged deadlifts, and even then you don't have to do them. This is just my workout. Like, I never said this is the best workout for everyone ever. It's just a good movement for your hamstrings and your glutes. So yeah, we'll move on to barbell hip thrusts now. So I believe on this day I did a top set of 170 kilos, I believe. Now, I got either 7 or 8 reps on this workout, I think. The other day I hit this for like 10 or something, but this is like, that was like obviously a few weeks after I did this set. So yeah, pretty heavy because it slid me forward, which is what I usually do. It's a little bit fun, but yeah, you can imagine it's pretty heavy. And then this is 160 kilos. So again, reverse pyramid sort of training. It's what I like to do. The second and third sets feel a lot easier after you've done a set with heavier weight. So yeah, hip thrusts basically just, I do them off a bench, which makes it a hip thrust as opposed to a glute bridge, I believe they call it. A glute bridge is the one where you do it with a barbell, but you do it when you're lying off the ground. Whereas a hip thrust, you've got the bench. So with the bench, you get a lot more range of motion, as opposed to obviously just thrusting your hips up off the floor. Quite straightforward, you just drive your hips up. That's the primary cue you need to worry about. Like your feet width and stuff will kind of depend. My gym in particular has really thick sort of like squat pads, I think. So some people use these little pads for their neck when they're squatting because they don't like how the bar feels on their neck, or like it just hurts or whatever, but I use them for hip thrusts. And my gym has 3 of them and 2 of them are too thin. Like obviously 160, 170 kilos on your pelvis is a lot of weight, but there's one pad in particular that really cushions it. Like I have to hold it. I don't know whether you saw when I was working out, but I'm sort of like helping alleviate some of the pressure on my pelvis by like holding the barbell a certain way. I haven't seen any like other people like have like form techniques for that particular thing. I really didn't word that well, but basically it just feels a lot easier when I hold the bar a certain way. Like I'm sort of like not really pulling it up, but I'm, yeah, I guess alleviating some of the pressure on my pelvis somehow. So it's just a trial and error thing. You'll have to try it for yourself if you are going to do hip thrusts yourself. So next movement, Bulgarian split squats. I do 2 sets of these, 1 on each leg. Yeah, fantastic movement. Definitely do unilateral movements for your legs if you're not already. And I like to lean forward when I do these because it helps me sort of, I guess, not fall over when I'm doing these, because as you can imagine, my legs are a little bit fatigued at this point and I'm holding upwards of like 40 total kilos as well, and doing that off a leg, off a pretty high like step. So some people do split squats off the ground, so they're not doing it with as much range of motion as I am, the same way that they'll do glute bridges instead of barbell hip thrusts, and they don't get as much range of motion. So that's just a little cue I like to keep in mind. Like I like to lean forward, it helps me like not fall over. So if you guys are doing split squats, maybe try that. I got that cue off Athlean-X on one of his videos. I can't remember, he puts out so many videos and like I haven't watched some of his stuff in ages, but I found that it really helps. Some people say to stay upright. Like I can kind of see why they'd say that, but if you're doing a split squat and you're holding dumbbells, you don't really need to be worried too much about your spinal position. Because since the bar isn't like loaded onto your spine, it's loaded to your sides, you can be a bit more lenient with how your back is positioned. At least that's how I interpret things, based on my understanding of anatomy and all that, and based on my anecdotal experience. You know, I've done split squats like this for years. Like the only reason I'm not split squatting more is because I've I constantly cycle it out of my routine and I do something different every time. So that's why I'm not Bulgarian split squatting like 50 kilo dumbbells on each side. But yeah, I've done split squats for years and I've stayed upright and I've had to lower the weight because otherwise I'd fall over, and then I started leaning forward and then that helped me stay upright. So again, just do your own research for this sort of stuff. Just see what works for you. Okay, so now we've got leg extensions on the machine, just isolation movements for quads. There's not really much to say here, really. It's just put the little machine to a point where it feels comfortable on your legs and it feels like you're getting good range of motion, and just pretend you're kicking a soccer ball. It's as simple as that. So I'll do 2 sets of those. I only filmed 1 because leg extensions are boring. Nobody wants to see isolation movements. They want to see big compound movements. And then I'll also do lying cable hamstring curls. So yeah, I'll do 2 sets of these, 1 on each leg. Now the reason this is a good movement is because it's a leg curl movement. Now your hamstrings, there's a muscle in your hamstring called the biceps femoris muscle, and it doesn't cross your hip joint. So what this means for you as a gym rat is if you're doing a lot of stiff-legged deadlifts and like Romanian deadlifts and like good mornings and stuff to train your hamstrings, you will never actually train this specific muscle because it doesn't cross the hip joint. Whenever you're doing hip hinge type movements like deadlifts, you won't actually work this muscle. But this muscle does cross the knee joint, I believe, which is why it gets worked when you do leg curls. Or it crosses, it's got something to do with the fact that it doesn't cross your hip joint, it crosses another like part of your leg. And that's why you train it through leg curls. Like again, like I mentioned before, I haven't actually trained anyone as a personal trainer in like 2 years. So I kind of still have an idea of this stuff, but I don't know every intricate detail. What I normally do is I normally fact check all this stuff on screen if you've watched any of my other previous videos, but as I've mentioned before, and as you guys probably know, I'm under a bit of a time crunch at the moment, so I just have to sort of just get this video out. And worst case scenario, I can just do another 7-day grind video, like a week in the life, on any of my other weeks after my exam, because obviously it's not like this is just 1 week where I just had gym and work and study all at once. Like I do this shit all the time, so I can maybe do a really fleshed out, in-depth week in the life. But with that also being said, I don't want to put in a heap of effort into a video that no one really wants to watch. So I'll see how well this goes, and then we'll see if I want to do, but we'll see if you guys actually like it. And if you do, I might do a really proper, thorough, in-depth 7-day grind video, but I digress. So here I'm doing cable hip abductions, and the reason I do this is because in the past, when I've gotten really strong on sumo deadlifts, the body part of mine that will get sorest the most, like the most sore, that's probably better English, is my hip abductors, and that's because a chain is as strong as its weakest link. And as you can imagine, with all the other big muscles involved in a deadlift, obviously the weakest muscle is going to be the most sore, which in a sumo deadlift for me was the hip abductors and adductors. So that's why I do this movement, because it helps strengthen them and target them specifically. And I don't believe there's, apart from sumo deadlifts, I don't think, and maybe Bulgarian split squats to a small extent, and maybe barbell squats, but they don't really get like targeted in any of the workouts that any of the exercises I do in my workouts. So that's why I add these in. And yeah, these getting strengthened will help me like deadlift more, because I won't get sore and have to stop at a certain weight because my hip abductors can't handle the weight. So that's all I filmed for this workout. And as you can see, that's basically all that I've written down. Now, sometimes I'll do abs. You do work your abs with like compound movements as it is, but if you want some extra isolation work, then like add in some extra stuff at the end. But sometimes I'm pretty tired from this workout, so I just want to sort of go home. I will also do some cardio, like just to get a bit of blood flow into the legs, but I'll only do like Stairmaster or the bike. Again, I mentioned in another video, but basically because there's no decelerating or like eccentric force on your legs when you're on the bike or on the Stairmaster, it reduces any further muscle damage, whereas on the treadmill you can kind of get some muscle damage from that, but there's a little bit more to it than that, but that's basically the real brief gist of it. But even then, even if that wasn't a factor at all, I just prefer the bike and the Stairmaster as opposed to the treadmill. So that's why I do that. Also, I mentioned like a minute ago how you work your abs when you do like compound movements like deadlifts. So you work your core when you do that. In terms of like your rectus abdominis, which is like the quote six-pack muscle, it does get worked, but if you think you're going to get super chiseled abs just by doing squats and deadlifts, like it'll help, but you should probably do some isolation work for your core, for your abs, as well as doing your compound movements. So yeah, if you want decent abs, don't get lazy on the ab movements. That's just a little hot tip for you. So that workout lasted about an hour and 40 minutes or something. Maybe an hour and 50, I don't know. Those workouts tend to go for a little bit longer just because I spend more time warming up and a little bit more time cooling down. So 7:20 to 7:35 I drove home. So 7:35 to 7:45, the sun was still quite up on this day, so I walked around a lot and got a little bit more sunlight. And I also wanted to sort of like, I guess, get more blood flow into my legs as well. So I was just doing some sort of like soft like lunges as I was walking along the driveway while I was getting some sun, as well as just cooling down overall. So that little 8:03 snap, that's just when I got into my room. As you can see, my little degrees and shit in the back. And then I'm doing a sneaky little delt flex because I was probably Snapchatting someone and I wanted to just flex on them, you know, look at my delts. I just train legs, but check out these delts. So, you know, just whatever. Now, next slide, 8 o'clock to 10:15. So in this time I showered, I shaved. So I shave every Wednesday and Sunday, which just happens to be my leg days. So I know that's just how it's always been, and it's not broken, so I won't fix it. So I'll shave like my sort of neck beard and my little sort of sideburns that I grow. I get laser hair removal on my neck, and at the time of recording, I've had 9 sessions, but at the time of these images, I think I had 8 all up. So there's definitely a lot of progress that's happened with the laser hair removal, but there's still obviously patches that are growing as normal. So you've got to actually shave properly. And I get it on my body and like in my like sort of Brazilian area, which is like your pelvic, like pubic region too. And they grow in sort of little patches here and there too. So I've still got to shave, but like there's a lot less hair than normal, but I still got to shave anyway, up until the point where the laser hair removal is like semi-permanent. Like you've got to go back every 6 months or so once the effect is like quote permanent, like once everything grows back super slow. But until then, still got to shave. So that's what I did. And then I'll also do some side hustle work or study in the time that I have spare between like showering and having dinner and going to bed. So the first image is me getting my food ready for the next day. So I've mentioned it a couple of times in this video, but I figured I'd show you what that actually means. So the protein shake thing, I've got to get the milk out, pour the protein powder in, pour the milk in, that's ready to go. Right behind it is my little tuna and pasta salad or potato salad meal. In the other Tupperware container is my kiwis. The 2 freezer bags, it's my sweet potato and red meat. You can kind of see the red meat behind it, but I put all that stuff in Ziploc bags because we just don't have room in our freezer for all the Tupperware containers at once. And even then, we don't really have like a large abundance of Tupperware containers. So I pretty much just pull these little freezer bags out as I need them, and then I'll let it defrost overnight. I'll pour it in the little Tupperware containers that I bring to work in the morning before I leave to work. Then I'll do my dishes at work once I finish eating, and I'll bring them home and repeat that cycle. So that's what I do with like my lunches. There's a dark chocolate there. I only have like one row at a time, and one row lasts like 5 days. So if I've run out, I'll obviously put more in, but if I've still got some, then obviously no action required. And then I've got my seaweed as well. And yeah, that other image, 10:16, yeah, I'm pretty much ready for bed at this point. Now, here I'm also just checking my punting portfolio, which is just fun gambling with Ladbrokes, which is like a gambling like app here in Australia. They used to be quite popular back in the day, but I think Australia's gotten a little bit stricter on their gambling regulations over time. Like I used to sort of gamble a lot back in like 2016, 2017-ish. Like I would have a bet on every single day that the NBA was on. Like I just had to bet something. Like even if there was a game or some odds I really didn't like, I just put something on. So I didn't think it was slowly becoming a problem. Some people would argue that, but yeah, point is Ladbrokes, that's the app that you can see in the first image. They offer sign-up bonuses here and there. They're not allowed to advertise them, so they like text them to me, which is pretty sweet. So I'll take that. It's like free money if you get the bets right, obviously. In the States, they have like DraftKings or something, or at least they're starting to roll out like legalized gambling. At least that's what I've seen from like the stock updates on DraftKings and all that. But I don't really keep too up to date with that because I don't have any money in DraftKings at all. And I don't plan to, at least not in the short term. But yeah, either way, that's just gambling. I think I actually won money today. Yeah, I think I had money on... Sorry, I'll zoom that image because I can't actually see. Yeah, Milwaukee Bucks. Oh, yeah. So I had money on Bucks to win by more than 4 points against the Lakers. That was easy money. Like, just the Bucks are good and the Lakers suck. Like, I can't believe Ladbrokes is actually offering that. That's like throwing money away. Now, the reason I didn't put too much money on it was because I have the power to manipulate markets. Like, if I put anything more than $100 on a game, it will just not happen. So I could have put like all $400 on the Bucks to win by more than 4, and then they win by like 3 points, or the Lakers will win. Like that's just how it goes. So I just put in a bit. Like again, it's like investing. Don't put money in you're willing to lose. Like if I lost that $30, I couldn't care less, to be honest. So, and then yeah, the eToro portfolio. If you were keeping an eye out on the other image I had on the Tuesday, you'll see that my portfolio is up $1,000, and it's not because any stocks went up $1,000. That would be nice, but that's not what happened. I put I put $1,000 in to buy an oil company, DBO, and I also bought more Nvidia stock because I believe in that long term. So I just wanted to flush some capital into the markets before I really need to start saving for my real estate investment / land, which was mentioned in a little image I had earlier in the slides. So I still need to fork up $48,000 of cash for that. So that's why I haven't just invested like absolutely, all of my money, because I need a lot of it for that land. Now, I did way too much at the gym on that Wednesday session. So I woke up at like 1:30 and I felt like my heart rate was really elevated. So I think that's what happens when you do too much too soon. Like, again, I used to be a personal trainer, so I used to know all this stuff, but it's got something to do with like too much muscle damage, like too much for your body to handle at once, because I was sort of slowly getting back into gym because I had a bit of a break at some point in Jan. So I've gone a bit too hard too soon. And yeah, my body is telling me, no, you've done too much. So yeah, had trouble sleeping that night. Did too much volume at gym, can't sleep, got something to do with increasing heart rate, woke up to urinate. Yeah, I had to urinate because there is some mechanism where if you, I guess, damage your muscles, it has some correlation with increased urination via your kidneys. Like, it's got something to do with that. Like, there's some correlation between muscle damage and your kidneys that I can't remember off the top of my head, but basically, I'm sure you guys may have noticed this yourself. If you do too much at the gym, you'll like wake up to pee more frequently. So, and that other image, can't sleep because I'm too excited, nervous about the future. That's just some person I follow on Instagram, and I was like, yeah, same. Literally me, can't sleep. And I also am excited, nervous about the future, but that's not why I can't sleep. So yeah, it goes to show that, you won't always get a good night's sleep. Sometimes shit happens, but you just got to roll with the punches.